lot of digital stuff tends to be, the focus tends to be on digital data collection or, digital questions, and that's good and that's important, but
it's not the business question.
Right, but then there's sort of like well, how do you do that, and how do you actually get people to internalize what is a comfort level and a willingness to take risk? Right. We're rolling, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The research business has historically been one about collecting data, and you have your little piece and you farm it like a farmer and 40 acres and a mule. And increasingly it's not about the farming, it's about sort of the preparing of the recipes with pieces from different farms. And that's a different way of thinking. So it's going from collecting to connecting. You often can't grow everything you need in one climate, in one field, and the clients are saying, we've got enough data, food. We actually don't want an all-you-can-eat smorgasbord with piles of macaroni and cheese that are 4 feet tall. We want deliciously prepared meals that, quite frankly, people will talk about around the organization, because big clients have an alignment issue where the knowledge that goes to the researcher may not go everywhere else it needs to go, and bar charts and pie charts just don't carry the day as much. I'm amazed when I walk around the office at how many bar charts and pie charts I still see. And I think that's actually another area for us as an industry is we could do a great deal of good by just not necessarily changing the data and all the methodologies, but just stepping up the visualization of the data, the story that is told through the picture. And I think we actually have some good initiatives in Kantar to do that, partly tapping into some of the creative resources in WPP. For example, could you show website pathing where instead of just seeing a typical funnel with where the fall off occurs to liken it like a tree where people go up in the tree and it bears certain fruit on certain branches. It's a silly example, but it's actually a good one because it may be that someone finds that much more telling and they pass it on themselves.
It would almost be cool if you had really good data visualization people. Like, I don't know if you dig.com, they hired some guys to just be like, you know what, here's access to all our data, do something visually stunning with it, and the stuff they created is awesome.
Yeah, there's
insightful.
Right, and that is I think a big next step for the whole industry is to go beyond the bar charts and pie charts and tell a story with the data. And not everybody is good at telling stories, to be honest. So wouldn't it be nice if we had some templated visuals that could more powerfully tell the story? And sometimes it might be just that one chart that gets passed around, to 400 or 500 people in an organization, and that becomes the thing that people remember. Let me try and answer it by sort of setting up the question. As we move from a business that's been about collecting data to a business that is increasingly about connecting data that sometimes you as a researcher may not be familiar with. As you said, the skill sets may need to broaden, but also there just needs to be a mindset of I'm open to playing in a sandbox where there's things that I'm not 100% familiar with. And researchers, I think, by nature, are people who like to be very certain and precise. That's actually what they're paid to be. Whereas when you branch out and you bring more into on your palette, it's hard to be as familiar with everything. So there's just, right away, there's just a certain comfort level and overcoming of some fear of unknown. That takes cultural bravery that's institutionalized and rewarding risk-taking as opposed to punishing risk-taking. That may mean some things are a little less profitable at times. It may mean that people may take a little more time to do something new. We as a management team have to be patient and cultivate that vibe. Easier said than done. You square that with quarterly pressures in that you don't do it all at once. I think we have some very good initiatives in Kantar that are about taking pockets of people and putting them in that sandbox and giving them some time. We've actually carved out a way for people to almost take internal sabbaticals. We have a program called Catalyst where we do that, and it's about becoming familiar with different data sets, working as a team of people who don't normally work together. And by the way, they're usually more junior mid-level people, not the senior people. They're people who are open-minded and excited about learning something new and quickly. And we put them together and we see what comes out of it. We give them a few client questions and we just say, there's your toolbox, play with it, have some time, we'll feed you occasionally, go away, come back in 3 months and tell us what you've come up with. And that's scalable institutional innovation that doesn't break the quarterly margin because it's contained, but it's incredibly powerful, even if it's just examples. And I think in a company of the size of Kantar, we have 27,000 employees. We should be able to find time to take a portion of them and give them the time to do that. And we need to reward what they come up with, even if it doesn't succeed. And that's the other side of it, is it won't always work. So part of the culture is fast failure. We are going to fail. If we fail, because we're trying to be innovative, let's fail quickly and let's move on. Let's not fail over 3 years. Let's fail over 3 months. And you learn a lot in the failure process, maybe sometimes more than you do otherwise. And again, that's a cultural vibe we need to create. As far as the skills, for the people, I think people are still naturally very curious. Researchers are, to me, a bit like journalists. They're curious about the world and how it works. Social scientists, some statisticians, but a lot of research people in the market research space are not statisticians. They're people who are just interested in psychology and political science and sociology. So I think these people are naturally curious and they want to learn new ways of evaluating the world. At the same time, people don't want to be expected to be a master of everything, and or they don't want to be a little bit familiar with everything but not an expert. They want to still feel some level of expertise. So for us in Kantar, what we have set out to do is, number one, we go through a lot of, I would call it sort of personal coaching with people, where we simply get them to learn how to better communicate what it is they want to learn and what it is they want to do. That is not a research thing. That's just like a person thing. What do you want to do? How do you want to do it? Are you communicating that? Do the people around you know what it is that you're interested in doing? Now, I can't say we always accommodate what they want to do, but we have to teach people how to articulate what their needs are. Suspend your agenda. Don't always push your product. Don't always push your package. See what comes up from either the client or from outside of the company. Be open to new ideas and not just pushing your solutions. We do a lot of that, and I think one of the things, Kantar has a lot of great data assets and a lot of great tools, but one of the things I think we have that is a gem is we have great people, and ultimately these are people who become more creative and more interesting to clients. And very often we don't talk about the people in the research business. We talk about the data and the tools. And I think the people, for this next stage of connecting, it's going to be done by people very much in a, you said it earlier, looking for patterns, or people willing to reach out of their comfort zone, or being able to say, that's not good enough, and be honest with their client team. That's just more of the same. let's try and stretch it a little bit. That takes a little bravery, risk taking. So I guess it's a little bit corny, but I would say it starts with people, and then it goes to the data, and then it goes to tools that make it easy to do those things. But Kantar, I mean, one of the reasons I work there is because the people are good people. So the connecting concept obviously is not about just connecting within our walls. It's about connecting to the great data and people and ideas that are outside of Kantar. And going back to what I said about people, our people have to be open to that, and that's a fundamental thing that we are addressing and building. Frequently there's, as part of that, a suspension of agenda, which is instead of saying, I want to sell you my solution that is box X, you have to just basically spend the beginning part of the conversation with the client trying to identify exactly what the question is. It may not be the question or the data set that you have in your shelf, and you have to suspend your agenda and be open to try and address it. The beauty of Kantar is we have experts who do different pieces. We also have now a lot of people who look outside of Kantar at other resources, whether it's the Google Analytics and source data from them, whether it's third-party databases and matching capabilities, or if it's even just the respondent/consumer themselves, where they're talking to us in a less structured way, as opposed to survey. It's more of that, platform dialogue that we all know about. But connecting is not it would be wrong to say you're doing your job connecting if you're just trying to connect your own stuff. And I actually think that when we connect things that are outside of the family, outside of Kantar, outside of WPP even, we build more credibility with the client that shows that it's not all about us. We're not going to claim we have everything under the sun. Nobody does. And even if you do, you often need another piece to validate what you're doing internally. So you got to bring in stuff that shows it's not just about you. And I think clients appreciate it when you say, look, we'll be a bit more like, instead of the farmer where we're just selling you what we grow, we're going to be your chef, and we're going to help you pick ingredients that are the best ingredients. Some are from our store, some are from the store down the street. Some may be stuff you already have in your shelf that we don't have to buy, that nobody has to pay for. And we'll help you pull the recipe together. And sometimes that recipe will taste great and you'll be blown away. And sometimes it may not work. Are you okay with that? We all have to be okay with that once in a while. If we want to be truly innovative, we have to be okay with once in a while it doesn't work. And more often I think it will. And the clients will be refreshingly appreciative of something that is not just saying, give us more money, we're going to go out and collect all this more data, but more like, let's try and work with the stuff maybe that already exists. There's a ton. You have it. I have it. Let's see what we can do with things we already have. It's like when you go home and make dinner, you got to be a little more creative sometimes. You just go and you open the shelf and see what's in there instead of saying, I got to go to the store. And increasingly, I think my gut is that clients will buy more with you and spend more with you if you're not always asking them to spend. I think that the clients are looking for that tour guide, that chef who can find the ingredients and put them together, not just the farmer who grows and sells what he grows. And I think it's like the Economist article about the data deluge. There's more than enough stuff coming at them. They don't have the time to sort it all. And they want someone to, in a connoisseur way, pick the pieces that make sense depending on their problem. So first off, we have to listen and articulate what their real question is, not the 50 questions, but what's the real one. Once we get that, what are the pieces? Once we get that, how can we present that compellingly with data visualization that will not just be interesting to them, but will go across their organization? And then I think the last thing is if we can help connect the gaps in their own organizations through our people, either our global network of staff or through just the sheer brilliance of one of our graphs that travels around the organization globally, we can close the gaps in very big companies that have difficulty closing gaps themselves. That doesn't mean we don't have gaps. Every big company does, but ideally their partner would help them close those gaps that big companies have. Martin Sorrell calls it alignment. You know, are they internally aligned? We need to help align them. And I think a great meeting that we have with clients is whenever, and we have a lot of these, we have a meeting with clients and we end up introducing people on the client side that have actually never met. And that's why I feel like we're doing the connecting job.